Welcome back to another video. This is RBC Mr. Rhodes, and for this devlog video, I'm going to be talking about things that I plan to implement in the future, and not right now, just because right now I'm focused on finishing the final boss of the game, and I do not want to share much of that right now, to save that for those who get to the end of the game. So what I'm going to be working on after I finish the final boss is, the first thing I'm going to work on is just boss fight polish. And what I mean by that is make them more fun, because right now I went back and fought some of the bosses from the previous parts of the game that I already worked on, and they're very simplistic and almost just felt like another enemy of the game. So I want to kind of spruce up what the bosses bring to the table, and I started to do this with the prison guard boss in the dungeon by adding a gimmick to the fight, just to mix it up and make it that enemy or that boss unique from just a normal enemy. And that gimmick for that boss is that he is constantly charging at the player, and the only way to get him to stop charging is to either let him run into the wall, or you can actually hit his head is a weak spot when he's charging, while the rest of his body is immune. So if you can hit his head, he'll get stunned for a second, and then you can deal damage then, but then he'll start charging again. That's kind of how I want to look at the old bosses that I made and try to make them more fun. Maybe add a gimmick to them, or just more interesting attacks that make that boss a little different from just a normal enemy. And the next thing I want to add is funsies, which funsies is a term coined by Thomas Brush. He is another game design YouTuber, and the way he describes funsies is just interactable props within a game. And in a lot of games, this is crates that are on the ground, and you can walk up to the crates and hit the crates and they'll break, and it's engaging for players. And one thing an example that Thomas Brush uses as well is just adding like a pinwheel into the game, so that the player can just go up to the pinwheel and smack the pinwheel and it'll spin. But what I plan on adding first is choppable grass in the mound and elder tree. Just this grass that the player can walk through. And I also want to incorporate with this choppable grass is when the player walks past this taller grass, it'll wave in the wind as if the player is causing a wind gust walking past, to make the game more interactable and feel more lived in. And then the last thing I want to add is environmental immersion, which kind of I touched on a little bit with the grass moving when the player walks past it. But I also want to add in potentially weather systems, which what I had in mind was rain in the mound biome, and potentially on and off snow in the iceberg, to just make the game feel a little better. While I'm saying this, I'm thinking maybe adding water in the dungeon biome, dripping from the ceilings, because there is flooded parts of the dungeon, and it is right next to the lake biome. So it would make sense for the walls of the dungeon to get wet and the ceiling to drip water. So I'm thinking I might also add that in, and just adding more environmental storytelling into the game, which I already have different props and you could say lore items that try and tell bits and pieces of the story, but I feel I could do a better job, and I'm just going to add more of that into the game. And I also want to just work on better lighting. I already started that in the dungeon biome, as I touched on the last devlog video, but I want to more specifically make those lights in the dungeon to be more of spotlights that shine just downwards and a little to the out and not all around, just so the game is a little more immersive and it's not just a random light just floating and it's more of a spotlight. I feel like that would look better in the game, and those are the three things I want to add next once I finish the final boss of the game. And that's all I have for this devlog. If you want to see the latest game development tip video, that is in the top left corner. If you want to see the latest or the previous devlog video, that is in the top right corner. Thank you all for watching. If you want to leave feedback, please do so in the comments, or just like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. And this is RBC Mr. Rhodes signing off for now.